Whatculture.
Thanks to modern-day policing methods, most murders are solved, particularly when there's more than one victim involved. DNA testing, surveillance, and the ease of which information can be shared has made it extremely difficult for murderers to walk freely. Unfortunately, that hasn't always been the case, and as you sleep soundly in your beds at night, it's worth considering that some of the world's most notorious killers are still on the loose. I'm Cal from Whatculture, and this is 10 horrifying serial killers that could still be at large. Number 10. The vending machine killer. Country, Japan. Number of victims, 12. The vending machine killer is infamous in Japan for the paraquat murders that took place in 1985. The first victim died on the 30th of April after consuming a beverage laced in poison. Following the first murder, 11 more were killed in the same way as the first one, between the 11th of September and the 17th of November, where these murders were taking place. The poison drinks weren't located inside the machines themselves, but found on top or next to them. Fortunately, the killing stopped following the 12th murder, but the case still remains unsolved, and the culprit has never been identified. Number 9. The smiley face murderers. Country, United States. Number of victims, 40 plus. The smiley face killing saw a high number of young men who drowned in several states across the course of a decade. However, it has been thought by two retired detectives named Anthony Durati and Kevin Gannon that the incidents were far from accidental, and they are linked in the similar characteristics of the victims, as well as an unsettling presence and disturbing smiley face graffiti found near the locations of at least 12 of the cases. In one of the most damning pieces of evidence, the red smiley face with the devil's horns was found next to a note that read "Evil Happy Smiley Face Man." One of the detectives told police that this indicated the killer was still at large and actively taunting the police. Number 8. The Long Island serial killer. Country, United States. Number of victims, 10 to 14. The Long Island serial killer is one of the most prolific unidentified killers in New York's history, with up to 14 victims linked to his name, and they're all linked to the sex trade. Over the course of almost 2 decades, these murders take place. Police have officially confirmed that they believe one person is responsible for at least 10 of the murders, and that they are most certainly a resident of Long Island. Beyond that, it's a total mystery. Number 7. The Freeway Phantom. Country, United States. Number of victims, 6. The Freeway Phantom was a serial killer active during the 70s who abducted, raped, and murdered 6 women over the course of 2 years. Each victim was African American, aged between 10 and 18, and were all strangled, beginning with a 13-year-old Carol Spinks, who was abducted on the way home from buying groceries. Her body was discovered 6 days later next to a busy Interstate 295. The corpse of 16-year-old Darlenia Johnson was discovered under 3 months later, only 15 feet away from where Spinks's body was found, confirming police fears that they were dealing with a serial killer. No tangible evidence has ever been found in relation to the murders, leaving the Freeway Phantom's identity an ongoing mystery. Number 6. The West Mesa Bone Collector. Country, United States. Number of victims, 11 plus. Picture this, you're out walking your dog, you throw the tennis ball, and she comes back with a human bone. Well, that's exactly what happened to a woman in Albuquerque in 2009, where the remains of 11 women were discovered in the desert of West Mesa in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Referred to as the West Mesa murders, authorities believe that the killings were a work of a single serial killer. No potential DNA has ever been found, nor have any witnesses come forward of the bone collector. Number 5. The Monster of Florence. Country, Italy. Number of victims, 16. The Monster of Florence, known in Italy as Il Mostro, is the suspected serial killer behind 16 murders. The killings were primarily of young couples, and the incidents were linked by similarity of the murders using the same gun. The murders themselves all followed a similar pattern. The couples were stalked at night before being shot and stabbed to death. It wasn't exactly a great time for the police, as there were numerous false convictions, then releases after yet another murder took place. Despite all of the arrests associated with this case, the general consensus is that the real monster of Florence has never been found. Number 4. The original Night Stalker. Country, United States. Number of victims, 10 to 13. The original Night Stalker, also known as the East Area Rapist, is a serial killer who committed at least 10 murders and 50 rapes between the years of 1979 and 1986. The original Night Stalker is believed by authorities to have started out as a simple burglar, who escalated his crimes and later began a spree of murder and rape. Many of the murders and rapes were only linked by DNA evidence much later, which only contributed to the original Night Stalker's uncanny ability to avoid capture. Number 3. The Doodler. Country, United States. Number of victims, 14 plus. 3 survivors. The doodler was responsible for 14 killings in under 2 years. The killer targeted members of San Francisco's gay community, often meeting his victims at gay nightclubs and bars. The doodler was named as such because he had a habit of sketching each of his victims before killing them. He would draw out a picture of his targets, then give it to them as a means to initiate a conversation. This would often lead to them leaving with the doodler before engaging in sex and being stabbed to death. Frustratingly, due to the social stigma at the time, all 3 survivors refused to testify as they didn't want to come out as gay. This resulted in the suspect walking freely, and his identity has never been revealed. Number 2. The Stoneman. Country, India. Number of victims, 13+. In one of the most chilling cases on this list, the Stoneman has grown to be one of the most infamous serial killers in India's history, blamed for 2 sets of incidents in which the victim's head will be crushed by a single large stone while they slept. So just remember that when you're lying in bed. The murders began in 1985 in Bombay, where homeless people sleeping on the streets were targeted. After 6 murders, police began to suspect it was the work of a serial killer. The killings did stop briefly but have revived more recently, with one survivor unfortunately unable to remember the killer's appearance. Number 1. The Zodiac Killer. Country, United States. Again. Number of victims, 5 to 37. One of the most famous serial killers of all time, the Zodiac Killer terrorized San Francisco residents for the better part of a year in a case that was as fascinating as it was horrifying, due to the killer's habit of toying with police and reporters. He was confirmed to have murdered at least 5 people during his killing spree, though he has claimed that the number was actually 37. Many have attempted or even claimed to have solved the mystery of who the Zodiac Killer is, but none have been proven to be true, and no amount of publicity is helping police close in. I've been Cal from Whatculture. You can follow me on Twitter here, and did we miss any out? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.